And welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. I am Tim Capper, along with my co-host Cliffy D. Hey, Cliff, it's about that time.
And in the words of Lizzo, it's about damn time. Yes, finally, we are truly in camp session, the camp season, if you will, because the day we're recording this, rookie camp got underway for all 9 CFL clubs, which also means that this coming weekend, it becomes officially official. Training camp opens for everybody, including for your reigning, defending, undisputed Grey Cup champion Montreal Alouettes. That's right. We the ones.
We the ones. That's true. Before we go any farther, I want to obviously give a shout out to our presenting sponsor. That's the guys over at SportBuff, where if you use the promo code ALSFlightDeck10 at checkout, you will save 10% off your entire order. So head over to sportbuffshop.com, use the promo code, save 10%, and support local.
Always support local.
I was trying to come up with a term for this because obviously, with PKP coming in last year before the season, then us having a Grey Cup season. If this were a book, would the PKP thing been a prelude, or is that chapter 1 and this season is now chapter 2?
Whew, that's a great question. I mean, like, it's funny, like you talk about writing a great story, and it would suck to think that it was just a great story in one chapter. I mean, or a short story or anything like that. Like you kind of want this to be more, but I guess you really have no choice but to consider this chapter 2 of the PKP era and of that story, if you will. I mean, the fact that the story ended with a Grey Cup championship seems, I don't want to say anticlimactic, because this team had prepared, had a plan in place to eventually go and win a Grey Cup, and then they did it the first year, which is unfathomable. But and I still remember being on the field on Tim Hortons field after the Alouettes won the Grey Cup championship and seeing Pierre-Karl Péladeau, and he was in shock. It's like because I said, this doesn't happen, right? This doesn't always happen. You buy a team the first year, you win the championships. Like, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Like, this is incredible. And it's like, what do you do when you climb the mountain? I guess no choice. You have to climb another mountain. So I guess that's really what the Alouettes are going to have to do this year. Is okay. They're the top dogs now, so they got to stay that way. And it all starts this coming weekend. The road to the Grey Cup this November in Vancouver starts this coming Sunday.
It does. And I'm really pumped. We've been able to, it has been, and this is one of the things too, it has been officially released by the team, the schedule itself for the training camp in St. Jerome. We know that we're talking about, that there was rookie camp started today, but there hasn't been any mention of it. Have reached out to see if we can get some information. I mean, maybe they will do it as what we've come to get used to is that, they may release something about it tomorrow. But we did find out that the schedule itself, Cliff, is very similar to what it was last year. Being that they have set a couple of days off for the team during the weekends. And as I know, it's one of the cruxes that you and I had last year when it came to taking advantage of long weekends, which is what it will be, not this weekend, but next weekend, Victoria Day weekend. Right. It's not a full weekend. There's still a day in between where they're not doing anything. So, the schedule seems to be basically laid out as it is. Most of the time it will either be starting at 8:30 or a little bit after that. It will be.
It's open to the public. Let's
yes.
Make that very clear, folks. That if you want to make the trip to St. Jerome to see the Alouettes practice during the week or on the weekends or whenever, if there is a session available, yes, it's 100% free and it is open to the public.
Exactly. And it is located at this year, is at least for the next 3 years, Centre Sportif Claude Bellieu. Make sure you go to the St. Jerome website to find out where it is located. Go to Google Maps. You won't be able to miss it this year. I mean, it's basically two. I love this idea, Cliff, because I can only imagine what they're going to do. It's two actual synthetic turf fields. And this year, unlike any year that they've had before in the past, they're actually going to have an indoor facility just in case the bad weather does come. Mm-hmm. So completely different layout than it will be from Trois-Rivières, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay. Yeah. I'm sure, as I said, them having St. Jerome host for these couple of years, first time ever. I'm all for it. I'm curious to see what the Owls are going to be able to do with it.
Well, talk about it would be a nice thing. So, I mean, I sincerely hope that somebody that within the organization decides to let the rest of us know what's going on. I mean, we were able to piece stuff together because apparently now we're detectives that we can figure out all this information. But it really would behoove the team to get on that and let the fans know when and how and where and all the pertinent questions need to be answered. So the sooner they do that, the better it would be for everybody. But pretty much, if nothing else, folks, this coming Sunday, for sure in Saint Jerome, training camp will get underway.
Yep, and we can say that they are going to be having a scrimmage again too. It's currently scheduled to be done on May 18th. It'll also include a tailgate party, which starts at 2:30 over by the stadium, over by the fields, and the intra squad game, which it's going to be a little bit later than it was last year, if I remember correctly. It's going to be starting at 4:40. So, and it's again, it's not like Stade Diablo. So it's possible. I know there is limited seating. I'm sure the team will. Again, we're hoping that they're going to promote it, but I think some people may have to bring some seats too. It's possible because if anybody looks at the Google Maps view, again, I'm sure you can have 2,000 people, like it was in Trois-Rivières, but it's not going to be the same type of seating. So
once again, this would be the time for the team to get their act together and let everybody else know so that they can plan accordingly too. So,
yeah,
not that we're here to tell the professional football organization how to do their job, but just simply stating that this would be beneficial to anyone and everyone who's interested in participating in camp. So,
yeah,
we'll just leave it at that and trust that. We sometimes you got to trust the process, right? So let's trust it, and hopefully, come this Sunday, all questions will be answered.
They'll, as I said, knowing us, Cliff, like they normally do, they'll announce it tomorrow.
Probably, because hey, we're dropping a podcast, so that's the time. That's exactly the time when you want to release some very important, pertinent news.
Exactly. And by the way, a little bit later on, I hope you guys stay with us, is that to talk about not only the current Alouette situation, but what happened in the Grey Cup, and a little bit more about the 2024 season. A guy we've never had on the show before, but thanks to Cliff, we were able to pull this one off, and we are going to be speaking with Glen Suitor. Suits will be joining us in a couple of moments, and I'm really looking forward to talking with him.
Yeah, you hear him all the time on TSN broadcasting CFL games, and now he gets to bring that perspective here to the Alouettes Flightdeck. Definitely make sure stay tuned, folks. I mean, that's all I can say is stay tuned.
Exactly. Anything else that we need to talk about camp before we talk about any? I know we had some signings that happened today with our draft picks and stuff like that, and some other stuff like that. But any last words about camp?
Nah. Listen, we've done the homework basically for everybody. So let's at some point, someone else should step in and like, okay, no, we got this, guys, we got this. So we've done our part as far as I'm concerned. So let's focus on what's going on right now, which is rookie camp, and you can't have rookie camp without rookies. And thankfully, the Alouettes have rookies that are going to be a part of this training camp experience as of today. So why don't we delve into who we can expect to see in Saint Jerome this coming Sunday?
Okay, well, it can. There are three major signings, three releases that the team sent out this week. We'll talk about the one that was the earliest this week, where the Owls did sign three players, including two Canadians. They signed Christian Morgan, defensive back Christian Morgan, and then Canadian offensive lineman Matthew Hadjewicz, and another running back, Canadian running back Tanner Niemes. Morgan was at University of Baylor. Hadjewicz was at Regina University, and Niemes was at Wilfrid Laurier. Just so people who knows, in his career, he 226 rushes for 1,266 yards and 9 touchdowns. He was also named an All-Canadian academic in his first season, and he was also on the OUA rookie team. With that, as we've noticed too, Cliff, and we have to at least mention them, when there are signings, there are some releases. The Owls did release wide receiver Cameron Brown. And I don't know if you would call this surprising or not, but they did release linebacker Chris Moore, which they had just signed to an extension in, I think it was December.
Yeah, makes me wonder if, I don't know if it's a visa thing or paperwork thing that it was... For whatever reason, he's not going to be joining the team, but maybe the signing was concurrent to how the draft was going to go, and now the draft picks most of them have essentially signed. Who's to say? But that's the funny thing with training camp is you add players, you drop players, you add players, you drop players. I mean, it's all part of the process of building the team that does eventually become the 2024 Montreal Alouettes. So who knows? I mean, if injuries happen, maybe he comes back on board, or maybe he doesn't, or maybe another team picks him up. That's how it goes right now. Like that's where we're at. So it's it's a bit of a surprise move, yes, but once again, you got to trust that Danny Machocha and his team knows exactly what they're doing when it comes to putting together what could ultimately be a championship roster. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And also, the Alouettes announced two gentlemen who were an integral part in the championship last year: long snapper Louis-Philippe Bourassa and Pierre-Olivier Lestage. A long snapper, offensive lineman Pierre-Olivier Lestage. Bourassa will be under contract for 25 and 26, and Lestage will be inked with the team until 2025. Big parts of this team, of the team itself, to come back, and I'm glad that they're going to be with us through 2 and 3 years respectively.
Yeah, especially with Pierre-Olivier Lestage. I mean, he was definitely a major contributor on the offensive line. Definitely someone that you want to build around, and has done an outstanding job. Like, truly come into his own as a player. And when you take a look at, for example, Christian Matt, who's going to be back for his 14th season, not a young man anymore, though. So, I mean, like, even though he's still playing at a high level and he's still doing really great things, he too, like, he's got to be thinking about the future. And in which case, you got to make sure that the next man up is ready to go. In which case, Pierre-Olivier Lestage is that guy that could eventually become the next Christian Matt, in the sense that he becomes that anchor on the offensive line that is so very, very crucial. And it's a relief to see that the hard work that Pierre-Olivier has done has paid off, and that the Alouettes do see the value in him and keep him long term. And with Louis-Philippe Bourassa, let's face it, folks, the long snapper, if you don't hear from your long snapper, that means they're doing their job properly. And by and large, you don't hear a whole lot from Louis-Philippe, but he does an outstanding job. He's just a great contributor, and you cannot overstate how important a long snapper is, because it's not so easy to do it. There's not dozens of them out there. So you find one that knows how to do the job properly, you make sure you keep him on board and make sure that he's a part of this team. And without question, having both these gentlemen extend themselves here with the Alouettes, definitely be excited about that, folks.
And you know what? It's funny, and I've noticed this too. And it's funny, the Owls, our long snappers have had a hell of a lot of longevity with the Alouettes that we've seen over the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So it's great to have him on board again. So, and for another couple of years. So I can't complain about that. We
And
were
it always seems to be a French Canadian too. Think back to Martin Bedard, absolutely outstanding at that position as well. Pierre-Luc Caron, who actually became a great long snapper when he was with the Calgary Stampeders, signed with the Alouettes in free agency a few years ago, did an outstanding job there as well. Ended up taking his retirement, hence why Louis-Philippe Bourassa came over from the Ottawa Redblacks, and it just seems to continue. And what's the one common denominator among them all? They're all Quebec-born players, and they all do an outstanding job. And these are not names that necessarily would jump off the page, so to speak, compared to some of the other superstars on this team. But once again, when those guys went down to injury, you knew it because, oh crap. I mean, the long snapping is not as easy as it looks. So,
no.
And as our friends at the Turf District will certainly tell you, snapping wins championships. So,
yeah.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. It's something that you and I talked about also. We off air, I think it's the last couple of days, we've been talking about, we're coming up to camp and we haven't heard anything about our draft picks being signed or anything like that. But today we actually did find out that some of the draft picks were actually put what is it? Put
pen to paper.
Yeah, thank you. And they actually are now officially members of the Alouettes Nation.
Yeah, I should note though that not every single draft pick was signed because a couple of them were invited to NFL mini camps, rookie mini camps. So obviously they're going to go do that first, and then maybe they'll sign with the team, unless they blow the doors off the competition and end up sticking with those NFL clubs. But we'll worry about that another time. We're going to focus on the players that are actually going to be in St. Jerome this coming weekend. So let's
yeah, I was gonna say some of them here. I'll let you get the last four of them. We did sign Michael Roan, defensive lineman Michael Roan, wide receivers Motion Jamal and Frederick Antoine, defensive backs Arthur Hamlin and Vincent. Is it Delisle? I think I still wasn't right on this one. What was it?
Well, in English you'd say Delisle. In French, it's Delille.
Okay. So I'm looking how it's spelled, and I was like, am I pronouncing it properly? Well, I'll have to get the pronunciation chart this weekend. And then
if I were the betting man, I would say it's Delille. But
okay. And then our global kicker Sam Clark. Now, of the guys that were signed, obviously the Owls did not. We talked about it before. We didn't have that very many draft picks this year. Of the ones that we did draft, who were the ones that did not sign?
That would be Jeffrey Quentin-Harcourt, who is participating in the rookie minicamp of the Miami Dolphins. Also, Michael Herzog was drafted, I believe, in the fifth round, or the fourth or fifth round. I'm sorry, it's for that. But he was a minicamp invite of the Detroit Lions, which is kind of funny because if I'm not mistaken, is the team that he was on was also the Lions as well. So I think it's a transitional thing, like Lions from one Lions group of Michigan to another Lions group in Michigan. So, and then the other global player that was taken, I'm going to butcher his name, something fierce. So it's Nureddin Newley. All this to say that, yes, there will be some of the draft picks coming to St. Jerome this coming weekend. And God willing, the other draft picks will come along in due time. Just like Lawal Ugulak last year was. Actually, you know what? I believe he was with the New York Giants minicamp. So he came into camp a little bit late, but still managed to get on board with his team and help them win a Grey Cup. So you just never know. So for the guys that aren't going to be in camp right away, the only thing I would say, folks, is don't worry. You'll see them soon enough.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, there is a little bit more we're going to be talking about for the show itself. I mean, but we're gonna get to that in a couple of minutes. But as I teased it just a couple of minutes ago, Cliff, we were lucky enough to have one hell of a name here join us on the show this week.
Absolutely. We're always excited when any of the folks at TSN join us for a chat, and I'm definitely excited to hear what Glen Suitor has to say about the Alouettes. Just getting the perspective from the other side of the country, if you will, because Glen's based out on the West Coast, and you tend to associate him more with Saskatchewan Roughrider things because he played for them. He seems to always feels like he does all of their games too, so it almost feels like he's still a big part of that team, although not really. But we're really excited to be able to have him on the show this week. So without any further ado, let's bring in the one and only Glen Suitor. Folks, it's finally upon us. The CFL season is literally weeks away from starting, but training camp will be getting underway this weekend. And to just do a quick preview of the Alouettes themselves, we are so excited to be joined this evening by TSN's own Glen Suitor, who also, too, I have to mention, is a member of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. Glen, thank you so much for joining us here on the Alouettes Flight Deck.
Thank you for having me. And I just realized that with rookie camp beginning and Milt Stegall taking on first day, putting the pads back on, I just wondered if I could get in there and play free safety just for a couple of those drills to see if I could catch Milt over, looking back for the football for a second and just maybe give him a shot or two, putting the gear back on.
I see your jersey back there. You could totally do that.
I was about to say,
yeah, we always joke, guys, that we could do it for one practice and then that would be it, because the legs would be shot, the knees would be shot, all of those things. But for one practice, and I think in fairness, that's what Milt is doing, and it's a cool marketing idea.
I'm about to say, if Milt has the clout, so do you, Glen. Let's see. Yeah, I think we'll give Glen a little bit more clout than Milt. What do you think?
Yeah. Not to mention, Glen does have a ring, which I'm sorry to say, Milt does not. Just say
right. Hey, facts are facts, right? I mean, speaking of rings, I understand the Owls are picking theirs up pretty soon, and that is outstanding. The money comes and goes, and the memories and that ring will always be there. And that, that's what you play for, because only that group will have that specific ring. I can't wait to see it.
Speaking obviously of the Grey Cup, we know you were covering it there. Give us a little bit of your thoughts on it, because I know we were watching it from the stands in Hamilton. But what were your thoughts? Just seeing the game live itself from your standpoint, because it's in my opinion, and yes, I may be a little bit biased, but I still think it was one of the best Grey Cups, one of the best Grey Cups of all time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was, and the storylines that jump out to me were Cody Fajardo and the fact that early in the at the end of the previous season and just before arriving in Montreal, Cody was thinking about maybe calling it quits and moving on in a different direction in his life, and it was sort of talked into coming back by Jason Moss. And you guys know the story, but a Canadian receiver in Phil Pott catching the winning touchdown, it seems to me, and I don't have the numbers right beside me to back this up, but it just seems to me that if you go back in the last 3 or 4 or 5 Grey Cups, and probably even further back, it's often a Canadian that makes that big play in the football game that makes a difference in the Grey Cup, because they've grown up watching it, and there's something, that extra spark in there, that they want to be that guy. But Cody finally sort of exercising the demons, if you will, they just taking control of that game in the second half, and the way he put those couple of drives together to take the lead. I just felt really good for him, because he's a first-class human being. He's a great leader, and I don't think he deserved the criticisms he was getting. The critics in Regina, that and maybe across the country, really, that were saying, I'm not sure if he's good enough and all that. Yeah, he's good enough, and he's a champion.
And that's something that they'll never ever take away from him now. You talk about redemption. You talk about not just for him, but for Jason Moss as well, who, similar situation, was kind of run out of town on a rail by Rider Nation, and look what the two of them were able to accomplish here in Montreal. It's absolutely incredible to think about.
Yeah, and I think both those guys are sort of a similar path that while this was going on and maybe they didn't deserve a lot of it, um, some of the criticisms and things, I think they still evolved, and they were still humble, looked in the mirror to see how they could improve. I saw sort of a different demeanor from Jason Moss throughout the Alouette season than back when he was in Edmonton and other places. So I just you can say that the critics were wrong, or make an argument that they were wrong, because they've proven that they're both champions now. But I also believe that through that process, they were continuing to grow and build their careers and figure out different ways to approach things. I thought Jason Moss showed great poise and composure on the sideline. Early in his coaching tenure, that he was a very different demeanor on the sideline. But I'm really happy for both those guys, because again, first class guys, outstanding football people, and football players, both of them in their own right, and him a coach, but also just first class human beings. So it's when you have good people and you put them together and they start to buy into the culture that they are creating themselves, not just Jason, but the team itself taking responsibility. That's when you got a chance to win, and that's exactly what happened.
Now, in your duties at TSN, it seems like you do a lot more of the West Coast games, which is understandable. But when Montreal does come out west and you get a chance to see them live, what's the one thing that you've taken away from them over the years, at least in this current iteration? Like, what's the one thing that you see out of this team more than anything else?
Well, first of all, defensively, it seems like they have Noel Thorpe brings something different. He brings a different sort of approach that often catches offenses off guard, which is surprising because he's been in the league so long. And his style is something that I'm sure has evolved a little bit, but is pretty much the basics is pretty much the same as it's been since he's been at DC. But so they're consistent on defense, where everybody sort of contributes in a different way. Like sometimes you're the decoy and sometimes you're the blitzer, and you might be featured, but that changes all the time. So all 12 have got to be tuned in and ready. They have great leadership on that side of the ball too. And when you got Marc-Antoine Dequoy back at the safety position, and the season that he had, that just sort of brought it all together with his big plays. And then offensively, again, Cody in a solid running game, combined. Austin Mack had a big year. Now they're going to have to replace him, but again, Phil Pott, I think we're just scratching the surface on him, and they have enough in the veteran category in camp to really hit it on the run. Consistency and knowing the playbook now, they're going to be ahead of a lot of teams. Like think of Saskatchewan, for instance. Corey Mace is bringing his own stamp to that team, and it'll take most of camp for them to just figure out what Corey Mace wants to do and what their OC and DC want to do, Mark Mueller, and how they're going to approach it. But in Montreal, they don't have to do that. Montreal, they're going to be starting knowing the playbook and then just introducing the rookies, and that's what rookie camp is about, to get them up to speed.
Yeah, we were all last year. We were calling, Cody. He was consistent Cody, and now it's just a matter of these guys who, as we've seen over the last couple of years, Danny Machocha has been able to bring in these guys that nobody has ever heard of, and obviously based on the issues that happened last year before Pierre Carpello came in and bought the team. He was able to mold the team properly for all the coaching staff, and they were able to do what they needed to do, and they got to the Grey Cup and won. When you look at just the look back at what happened last year, and looking what Pierre Carpello was able to do by coming into Montreal. It's funny to call Pierre Carpello a white knight, but that's exactly what he was. That's exactly what he was for Montreal. I'm sure you've seen over the years when it comes to the different ownerships and how they have meshed well with the team and stuff that they've owned. What was your thought? I don't know if you've spoken to Pierre yet or not, but I mean, Glenn, what's your thought on Pierre, him being a first time CFL owner?
Well, clearly, he reminds me of the approach that Amar Doman is making in Vancouver, and Pierre is again investing in the team, investing in the long run, has big plans for the team. I mean, we've in the past, over the last 30 years, unfortunately had a few owners that whenever they were in front of a mic, they would talk about, fancy marketing ideas and things, and then but there was never this consistent "we're not going anywhere" message that this is it, this is going to be part of our legacy and what we want to build and grow football in Quebec. And Pierre's saying that, and so is Amar Doman in Vancouver. He wants to build football at all levels in the province, and that every time Mr. Doman stands in front of a microphone, he is saying, "I'm not going anywhere," because he always gets that question for some reason. What about if the team doesn't make money, whatever, and he just says, "Listen, I'm not going anywhere. This is going to be a family business for that I will hand down through the ages and through the years, and we are going to continue to invest in it." And that's why Touchdown Pacific and busing people in from the interior of BC and all of those types of things to get the product in front of more fans. And that's what Pierre's doing in Montreal. I haven't got a chance to meet him. I really do. And by the way, that schedule, you're right about me doing more games in the West. TSN, it's more of a budget issue than anything because Dwayne lives in the East, so he can do the games out there, Dwayne Ford. And Maddie fills in a little bit. And then I'm in the West. I'm in Vancouver, so I do a lot of the West, but it's really only a budget thing because I love Montreal. And I love doing games there. And I really do want to sit down and meet with Pierre because I've met with Amar here in Vancouver, and it's sincere. I mean, we right now, guys, we have I think the strongest ownership group that probably the league has ever seen. And the backing from TSN has been there. The TV contract is bigger than it's ever been. There's opportunities and ways for growth in revenues that the players will benefit from as well. And that to me is equally as important. So to answer your question, I'm just happy that it's the right people. Money is one thing, and coming in as a big money guy, and but having local ownership. Ottawa is another great example. Local ownership. Yes, they have a lot of money, but they're in it for the right reason. They're in it to grow the entertainment value, grow the game in their city and province, and be difference makers and be patriots. And I think that's what all these owners are doing right now.
By the way, you have enough time there, Glenn. Talk to your friends at TSN. Let's get you here for the Thanksgiving Day Classic because that would be the best game for you to see. So, I mean, why not? So, Clip.
Well, I request one game in Montreal every year. I said, I know we've got budgets and things to think about, but let's put it this way. I would hate to have to cut a camera just so they could fly me all the way out to the East a couple of times because we want to keep the product good. And that's, so we're not going to do anything like that.
Yeah.
Or at least bring you in for like the Montreal Saskatchewan game, since people just tend to associate you with the Riders. So just to help sell that, I don't know, do you consider it still a rivalry after all these years, even though Montreal and Saskatchewan haven't met in the Grey Cups in like 13 years? Do you still consider that to be sort of a rivalry of sorts, or is it just still entertaining football no matter what?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a rivalry really, but I think the Cody Fajardo angle sort of added to it a little bit, last year. And I just did a speaking engagement where I'm the MC of the Dog's Breakfast, which is University of Saskatchewan Husky football program. And Sean Payton, the head coach for the Denver Broncos, was the guest speaker. So we sat and had sort of a hot stove with Sean Payton. And first of all, he was 1,400 people there. And I bring this all up because at times I am still associated big time with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, obviously, and proud of my time there and playing 11 years for the football team. But it also can work against me when we're doing games that I'm covering Saskatchewan, because I am 100% neutral. But what I really hope for every telecast is to have a really close game that goes down to the wire, because to me, the entertainment is on the field. I'm not there to entertain. I'm just there to help and guide and provide some information. But the entertainment is in the players, and the game has never been more exciting. I mean, what was it? About 60% of all the games last year were decided in the final 3 minutes. I mean, our final 3 minutes in Canadian football is better than the final couple of minutes of any sport in the world. And I could bring facts and numbers to back that up. So that was so entertaining. But when it's Saskatchewan playing and I'm covering it, Saskatchewan fans can be sensitive at times if I'm saying something that they don't like. So they will say that I'm overcompensating because I played there going on 30 years ago now, guys. I mean, there are guys on the field right now that weren't born when I played for Saskatchewan. So, I get that from the Rider fans occasionally, which is, well, you're overcompensating and you're cheering for the other team because you played here. So and then from the Montreal fans, I would get, oh, well, he was a Rider guy and that he's always talking good about the Riders. I think sometimes it's selective listening, selective viewing. You put on your home team goggles, and I love it. Go ahead and cheer for your team. And if you think that I'm being too hard on them, I don't mind you going off on Twitter either. Go ahead.
Oh, people will. Don't you worry about that. Hey, I got to ask, did you give Sean Payton the gears, being a former Ottawa Rough Rider?
Yeah, we talked about that. I said, when I introduced him, I said, and Sean and Coach Payton also, had a coffee with the Ottawa Rough Riders. And he stood up and shouted, actually, it was a bit of an espresso. It was just a tiny coffee. But it was funny because it's such a small fraternity. We were talking in the green room before we went out, and Sean was in Ottawa when Joe Paopao was one of the quarterbacks in Ottawa. In fact, Joe Paopao continued and Sean didn't. So basically beat him out in the position. But he really helped out Coach Payton when he was trying to learn Canadian football. Joe Paopao was in my wedding party. When I was a rookie in Saskatchewan, Joe was the quarterback there. And he and his wife, Dottie, were great friends, great family friends. So it's just such a tight circle, because when I said to Coach Payton, Joe Paopao was in my wedding party, and because he was talking about Paopao, and he goes, oh my goodness, I can't believe how small the world is in the football, family. Everybody's sort of related in some way.
Yeah. Before I let Cliff talk about the beginning of 2024, which I'm sure Owls fans are considering chapter 2 of this thing, with PKP. I wanted to ask you specifically about two particular people, because they did announce the guys who were going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. One I want to ask about is S.J. Green, and one is about Steve Daniel.
Yeah, well, first, S.J. Green, the human highlight reel, a guy that just made the spectacular look routine, and that's not many guys can do that. Whenever I hear the name, and when I saw it and I saw the announcement, I immediately picture the back of the end zone catch in Saskatchewan in the old Mosaic, the old Taylor Field. And that was like a 38 something, 36 game, last second back of the end zone, one hander that he defied gravity to make that catch. And so that's SJ Green, so well deserving. And Steve, if anyone involved with Canadian football and I'm talking anybody, players, coaches, TV personalities, radio podcasters, anybody. If you were all paid by the hour invested in the game, and Steve Daniels was paid by the hour invested in the game, he'd be the richest of all of us. And I mean that sincerely. I can call, or I'll send an email to Steve about some numbers I'm looking at in a player going into a game at 2 a.m, and I'll always start the email with, "This is for morning." Like I don't want to wake you up, but I just want to send it all while I'm working on it. So I'm sending him these questions. He replies to me immediately, and this has gone on for years, for a decade, that Steve has done so much work and so much of the number crunching so that guys like me and you guys have a chance to use those numbers to help sell the game. It's so important, so crucial. And I'm telling you, the guy has put in thousands and thousands of hours. So as soon as I saw that, I immediately contacted him and congratulated him. I said, "I don't think anyone deserves it more because you put in more time than anybody I know."
Yeah, that's why they call him. That's why I call him the CFL stats goat, because that's what Steve is. And I think for him going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in Vancouver this year, it's all more better for him because he's going to be able to do it in his home province. He'll be able to have family there. They'll be able to just come in into Vancouver and see him. And I too, I'm hoping that I'll be able to be there and to congratulate him, because for people who don't know who Steve Daniel is, he is a huge and integral part of the CFL, whether you know it or not. He really, really is.
Yeah, well, his numbers and his analytics, I guess, is just, it's taken it to a whole new level. Now, the league in the last 2 years has gone into the US to work on different stat systems and things like that, but Steve is still big time involved. But prior to that, for a decade, Steve was creating numbers that could help to sell and help to add color to the game on the field and the players playing the game. So I could come up with, he would in the middle of the night come up with 3 nuggets on Cody Fajardo that I would use in the next game. And I couldn't give him credit every time, or I'd be saying Steve Daniel every single time I mention a number. But I give him credit for a lot of that work. We have stats guys at TSN, and they do a good job too. But Steve, from a league level, finding the trends, finding numbers and all the history of the game and everything, just second to none. And I bet I'd put him up against anybody in any sport.
Yeah.
Without question. Well, let's look ahead to this 2024 season, not just for the Alouettes, but for the league in general. I mean, all sorts. It's been a heck of an off season, to say the least, good, bad, or other. But when we talk about these Alouettes, now they're in a position where they haven't been in 13 years, defending reigning Grey Cup champions. What do you expect to see out of this team in order for them to not just compete again for the Grey Cup, but to repeat as back-to-back champions?
Well, first of all, they've got a lot of leadership. There's a lot of leadership in the group, so that's a good thing. I think you look at the roster and they have the playmakers. I would say probably still looking at receiver. You're always looking for a good guy off the edge on defense, defensive ends that can, disrupt. They have to replace Austin Mack and his production, but they can do that by committee. And then I go to the most important guy on the field, Cody. And I think this is going to be just a huge weight off his shoulders, that he doesn't have to fight it anymore. He doesn't have to, do the mental training to keep himself on track. And by the way, this happens with everybody, not just Cody. But when you are sort of in the hot seat and your self-doubt keeps climbing in and you have to fight self-doubt, then that's exhausting. It really is. You have to continue to fight self-doubt, continue to work with your teammates, continue to move forward, even though the outside world is saying you can't. And Cody now doesn't have to worry about that. Cody will have a ring on his hand that will answer and shut all of those people up. Now he has to go out and perform. It's as good, you're as good as your last play kind of thing. We all know that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I think he's just going to play loose and have a lot of fun. And that's probably when you're best, especially as a veteran, when you're playing loose and just slinging it across the yard. I think, you can have a big year because of that. They've got a good balance in running game. And there really is no reason. You look at Toronto right now with Chad's situation. He won't start the season. He's been suspended for 9 games. So it looked like it'll be Cameron Dukes there. Bo Levi Mitchell apparently in rookie camp is already a little sore. They're just being careful with him, but it's something in his leg or something, I think. Ottawa's got, I think, 6 or 7 quarterbacks, on their roster, and Drew Brown is the guy I think they're hoping for, but we got to see coming out of camp. So, with that position being sort of, I don't know, unstable. There's some guys there that can do it, don't get me wrong, but Cody, like I said, is picking that same playbook up that they used to win the Grey Cup, making some changes and alterations, but he knows the basics of that already in day one of camp. So, there's no reason they can't be the dominant team and the team to beat in the East.
It's so funny because last year everybody had picked them 9th place, and that was the thing that fueled Cody more than anything else. And if you saw that in passion speech he gave on the eve of the Grey Cup, and he basically said, "F you, just watch." And sure enough, he went out and did the thing. Now, as he said, now the hunters have become the hunted. It's going to be a new challenge for him. And personally, I think he, as you talked about, he is that guy now. He is that guy that can rise to the challenge, that responds to the pressure, and he's proven that he's able to do it over and over again. So you're absolutely right. I think where this team goes is going to be however far Cody Fajardo is willing to take them is how far this team's going to go in 2024.
Yeah, and you make a good point though. They will be the team to beat to start every team's first game against Montreal. There's a little bit more there. The opponent wants to beat the champion. The Bombers have been dealing with this for 3 or 4 years now. But every time a team plays Montreal now, they're playing the champion. And they have to, if they want to be the big dog on the porch, then they're going to have to knock the other dog off it. So that they are going to face the team's best, at least early in the season when they face them for the first time. They're going to see the opponent's best. And, but that's what you want. If you want to beat the best and you want to be the champion, you have to beat the best guys in the league. And right now, the champions on top of the hill are the Montreal Alouettes.
Like they say, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, Cody's the man.
Yeah, and he will be that guy. I mean, honestly, I think he would play relaxed and they could take their entire offense now and just add to it and build on it. I mean, again, defensively too, same staff coming in, and you go and say, hey, that stuff we did last year, we're going to make it look the same, but we're going to add these wrinkles. And again, very few teams in the league are doing that because they're starting with new coaches or quarterback changes or whatever it may be, and they have to start from scratch. Here's our basics. And that basics takes sometimes a month or so to learn, and then you're really kind of going well. But you could be 3 or 4 games into the regular season by then. So Montreal has an advantage there for sure.
And the fact that they were able to keep that coaching staff relatively in place, as well as all of that nucleus that helped win the championship, as opposed to other teams where you win the championship and they get gutted immediately. So it's a huge advantage, I think, for the Alouettes to be able to still maintain that core that helped bring them that championship and be able to take that into 2024 and hopefully lead to what will be now an expectation to be able to repeat as Grey Cup champions.
Yeah, well, Yeah, again, an interesting word, expectation, because the moment, now you're expected to win. And, if you go 1-3 to start the season, all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of people going, what is going on? But, again, I'm sure somewhere along the way, just because the one thing that is certain is that adversity will hit every team at a different time in the year. Somewhere along the way, Danny Machocha and Jason Moss will say, guys, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So, yes, we got to fix this. And yes, we're working on that. It will happen. It'll happen. The Alouettes will have a great football team, competitive team. In fact, I think they'll be one of the top teams in the West when I look at or in the East when I look at their roster, and a relaxed and confident Cody playing with all that weight off his shoulders now, and Jason Moss and them working together again for a second consecutive year. I just, they're gonna hit the ground running.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. Alouettes Nation, you heard it from the man himself. This is going to be an awesome team to watch. Nice. You just put your stamp on it there, Glenn. I kind of helped you do that, though.
Did you guys lead me into that? Is that how this works?
No, of course not. What's being implied here?
No. I really believe it. Again, Darnell Sankey and guys like that on defense, and Marc-Antoine Duquois, and the leadership they have, and the guys on offense. I want to see how their offensive line comes together. Take a look at that. And can they find one rookie, one young guy, or maybe a free agent, or a guy from down south that can, be a burner in the receiving corps? That's probably something they'll be looking for a young guy to step up there too. They have enough, don't get me wrong, even with Mac leaving, but you always want to be looking for the next one.
Without question. And that's what's going to make this coming Sunday so exciting, because that's when things finally get underway for CFL clubs. Training camp's going to open. It's your chance for fans to come out, see the team, see what they're going to be doing, see what they've done in the offseason as far as acquiring new talent and letting other talent go, seeing how it's all going to come together. It all starts this Sunday, Glenn. How exciting is that?
Yeah, it's funny, because as the off season goes on, when I first finished the Grey Cup with all of that hype and the whole week and everything that goes on with Grey Cup, I get home to Vancouver and I kind of say, okay, I'm not going to watch the NFL. I'm not going to watch football for a while. I'm just going to decompress here a little bit. And that seems to go for about a month or 2 months. And when it gets to be February and early March, we start making conference calls talking about, of course, I'm watching the news all the time because I'm doing shows like this throughout the off season. But, I just, about mid-March is when I start to get fired up. But now after the draft, see all these young guys that are excited to go in and get their career and their journey started. Ring celebrations when Montreal, they're going to see that beautiful Grey Cup ring. That's going to happen pretty soon. And yeah, we're in rookie camps, and let's kick it off and let's get going.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Before we let you go, Glenn, where can we find you on social media? If people want to hit you up and get more of this knowledge, where can they find you on the World Wide Web?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. I don't even know what my handle is on X. But I know I'm a X guy, or Twitter, basically. I still call it Twitter. I really don't do any of the other stuff. I don't do Facebook. And the only reason I do Twitter is to, connect with guys like you guys and fans that are watching and commenting and things, not just on what I do, but just, on the game itself. Following a lot of those guys. But I don't know. I think if you go to TSN, you'll see my Twitter handle on there. Go to our website, and I'm doing some radio across the country, in Saskatchewan for sure. And if you guys ever want me back, let's go. Let's talk throughout the season.
Exactly. And it's at Glen Suitor on X.
There you go.
All right. Doesn't get any much easier than that.
Yeah. My kids always laugh. I say, I'm not on the Facebook. And they go, Dad, it's not the Facebook. It's just Facebook.
Technically, Glenn, technically you are correct, because when it first launched, it was called the Facebook. So technically you're right. Yeah.
But when it first launched is exactly when I said I don't want to be on that. It feels too invasive to me. But I am on Twitter, or X now.
Well, I think you're like us too, in the sense that to you, TikTok is what the sound the clock makes. So
yeah. Well, I don't even mess with that, and you will never see me doing a dance on TikTok. I guarantee you that. No. If you do, it's because someone did it without my consent,
or you lost a terrible bet.
Exactly.
Or TSN has turned the cameras around and caught you in between breaks.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's what I mean. Without my consent, something happened. Someone picked up something on a feed somewhere, and now they've made some sort of TikTok deal. Yeah,
there you go.
No, I haven't even come close to that. I don't even look at that one. I don't even downloaded that one.
Yeah, not for us either. So you're not alone in that sense. Glenn, thank you so much again for joining us here on the Alouettes Flight Deck. We definitely appreciate your insight, everything you've brought to the table tonight. Absolutely fantastic, and wishing you all the best for an absolutely incredible 2024 CFL season.
Well, I appreciate it, guys, and say hi to Cody, and congratulations to the entire Montreal Alouettes. Well-deserved win last year. Super entertaining game. They put on a show, and when they get the rings, man, I'm so happy for them. Deserve it. They earned it.
You're right. I love bringing in these guys from TSN and being able to just get their view on the team and stuff like that. And I know we talked about a little bit some of the stuff that we're going to talk about here in a couple of minutes with Suits, but the guy has been around for such a long time. You know, being a player and a champ himself, a Hall of Famer, and it's just great having him on the show for the very first time, because I know we've wanted to have him on before, but what better time to have him on and just chat about the CFL?
Definitely. I mean, once again, CFL on TSN is always entertaining. We watch it religiously, as all CFL fans do, whether it's your team playing or not. But Suits will come and he'll bring the knowledge. That's all you can ask, is someone that comes in with a great informed opinion, and Glenn certainly had that tonight. Even though he's not associated with the Alouettes, it doesn't matter. He's obviously someone that's just as dialed in, and cares about the product just as much to be able to share his thoughts on that. It's such a treat. So once again, we appreciate Glen Suitor for coming on the Flight Deck this evening, joining us to talk some football. Once again, folks, if this doesn't get you hyped for football, truly, what are you doing here even?
I know that we have a couple more things to talk about before we finish up tonight, and one of the things we did talk about briefly with Glenn was the CFL nominations for this year, and again, it has just been one hell of a year, Cliff. Past couple of years when it has come to the type of the Alouette alums that have just been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and this year, obviously, as we mentioned to Suits, this year was also I don't know if I really want to call it a surprise, because we talked to SJ earlier when he came by the stadium earlier this year.
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago already?
Yep, but we had him on the show last year, so maybe that's what you're.
I thought okay, and maybe I'm still coming off my Grey Cup high, but wasn't he in town for signing a 1-day contract and retiring? Seriously?
Yep. Because I remember talking, because we talked to him 2 years ago about coming on the Flight Deck, which he did last year. So.
Wow, I guess I have him mixed up. Age. Either way, to see him inducted into the Hall of Fame, but just to see who he's coming in with this year is just the names alone, as they usually are, they can be all-star teams just by themselves.
Oh yeah. And what's even more hilarious is that we have one certified, bona fide Alouettes legend going into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame this year, but we also have two bona fide legends. Although this one's probably a bit of a head scratcher for a lot of people, simply because I'm sure a lot of people don't know this, but Chad Owens started his CFL career with the Montreal Alouettes.
I know.
And even has a Grey Cup ring with the Montreal Alouettes.
Oh my God, I'd forgotten about that. You're right.
Yep. And absolutely hilarious, because yes, he is synonymous with being a member of the Toronto Argonauts and helping them win their Grey Cup, the 100th Grey Cup in 2012. And being a big part of that organization for so many years like that. So it's easy for a lot of people to forget that, oh yeah, he was also a Montreal Alouette for a cup of coffee, but it was a hell of a cup of coffee, let me tell you.
Yeah, no kidding. It's funny that the guys that go on to bigger, it's funny to say bigger and better things. I'll say bigger things after they leave the Alouettes, but still, I mean, I don't know if you have the list in front of you, but I think we should at least mention everybody who is going into the Hall of Fame this year as the class of 2024.
Yeah, definitely. With along with S.J. Green, who, without question, I mean, you talk about first ballot Hall of Famer, like this was a no-brainer, without question. Chad Owens as well, as far as Hall of Fame noms go, 100%. But yeah, well, let's delve into some other ones. Weston Dressler is also going to be going to the Hall of Fame. He had a hell of a career with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, playing against S.J. Green as well, as part of that Riders Alouettes rivalry back in 2009-2010. Those two guys know each other extremely well, and definitely well deserved. Weston Dressler, as I said, mostly made his career with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, but also did play for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which kind of wild when you think about it.
Yeah,
just simply in the sense that with that prairie rivalry being such a huge thing, it almost feels like a slap in the face to Rider Nation when someone like a Weston Dressler does jump to the other side. But absolutely outstanding receiver in his time as well, and definitely another well-deserved nod. Also joining them will be Marvin Coleman and Vince Goldsmith. Again, definitely players from before my time, but definitely, obviously, if they're going into the Hall of Fame, they were definitely remarkable players in their own right. In the builder category, coaching legend Ray Yock, I hope I'm pronouncing it. That's right. Ray Yock.
Yep.
Also with the Riders, and Ed Laverty will also be inducted posthumously. Sorry, I don't really tripped on that word. Once again, like simply outstanding class all by its own. But let's not forget, there's also a media wing of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, and this one is definitely going to be exciting, especially because the Hall of Fame ceremony for the media members happens during Grey Cup week, as put on by the Football Reporters of Canada. Very, very exciting to see two members being inducted this year. The first one is TSN, I'll say it, legend, Farhan Lalji. You know him as like the BC reporter. Like he takes care of everything BC Lions. He does everything on the West Coast. Just does an absolutely outstanding job, especially during the CFL draft. He's a big part of that as well. Also, friend of the show. He's been on the Flightdeck as well. So definitely, we're very excited for him, and definitely a well-deserved honor. And also joining him in the media wing of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, someone that's very near and dear to us here at the Alouettes Flightdeck, CFL stats guru Steve Daniel is being inducted into the Hall of Fame as well. An honor that's richly deserved. You may not hear his name a whole lot, unless if you'll hear it occasionally on CFL and TSN, as far as referencing stats and bringing up these sort of little nuggets of information that you just don't necessarily think about, or you may not think twice about. But such a wealth of information Steve has, and has been compiling it for years upon years upon years. I mean, you talk about a walking encyclopedia of the Canadian Football League. That's Steve Daniel, without question. We were so fortunate that he's been sort of a part of our crew as well for the past 9 seasons we've been doing this Flightdeck podcast. We can go to him almost any time to get stats on any little thing, and not even 24 hours later, he'll have it for us. Like it's absolutely incredible, and just an absolutely wonderful gentleman as well. So happy for him that he's going to be getting this nomination. The fact that the Grey Cup's going to be in Vancouver this year, where both Steve and Farhan reside, absolutely perfect. You couldn't have asked for a better scenario, as far as I'm concerned, to get these guys into the Hall of Fame, and they're going to take their spot there, which is so richly deserved.
Yeah, I agree. And as I mentioned to Suits in the interview, I'm hoping that we can take advantage of it and be able to see him get inducted, because it's I know some people who have gone to the players induction. It's a thing in itself. It's usually in stadium. This one's is a little bit more intimate. I think you'll agree with me, Cliff. And it's I'm looking forward to it. So it's very well deserved by everybody all around, because it's I'm glad that these guys are finally being recognized for what they've done in the CFL or what they're doing to help promote the CFL too. So yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily think too much about the media wing, but it's definitely something that's important to us as members of the media. And listen, the players definitely deserve their accolades as well, and they're going to get those as well. I mean, the Hall of Fame game is always played in Hamilton, of course, which is where the Canadian Football Hall of Fame is located, so it makes total sense. But those guys are going to get their day in the sun, definitely deserved. But it's also great to know that the media members are also going to get their chance to shine as well during Grey Cup week, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the penultimate time to salute the media, because let's face it, the Grey Cup of it's the Super Bowl of sorts, not just for the Canadian Football League, but also for members of the media that cover this league as well. Like, this is the opportunity to let everything out and to really showcase what media is when it comes to the Canadian Football League. And once again, this is where you get your due. This is where you get noticed. And I can't overstate just how great it is to see Farhan Lalji and Steve Daniel get their accolades, or they will be getting their accolades, I should say. So that event's going to be an absolute barn burner to attend as well. So I'm already I was looking forward to going to Grey Cup in Vancouver this year, but knowing that these two are getting inducted, heck yeah, let's do this.
Yeah,
let's
go. Yeah, let's go. We'll remind everybody that we are on social media. You can find us almost anywhere on the World Wide Web. If you happen to miss any of the shows in the past or want to get caught up leading up to the 2024 season, you can do so by heading over to our archive over at www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. We are also on Twitter /X/Twix, and that's at Alouettes FL Deck. If you want to find us over on Facebook, you can also do that by going over to Alouettes Flight Deck Pod. You can also find us on Instagram and YouTube at Alouettes Flight Deck. Also, if you're looking to find some merchandise to rep the podcast, whether it be now or a little bit later coming during the season or during camp, you got to get in your order now. Make sure you head over to flightdeckgear.ca. And I can say, if you head over there, I think by this weekend, there may be, Cliff, a promo code that you will be able to use to save some money off on your order. So again, head over to flightdeckgear.ca and get your merch to rep the podcast.
Absolutely. And who doesn't love a good promo code? Who doesn't love a good deal, right? So get on there, folks. Show the love for the podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you that's watching or listening to the show, whether it's on YouTube or on any of your podcatchers. If you want to show us the love back, no better way to do so than to go out and grab some of that sweet, sweet Flight Deck merch.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I happen to mention it. We're going to, speaking of YouTube, speaking of Facebook, speaking of Twitter, with camp coming up, it is going to be the season, I guess we can call it, Cliff, season premiere of season 2 of Flight Deck Live. So stay tuned for all of our socials to see when we are scheduling our on-site shows. little mini shows. As I said, it's gonna be probably in the same type of format as we did last year with our post game shows. But stay tuned to all of our socials because with camp, because I think that last year went so well, we're going to try to expand this even more. So stay tuned for more of us on site this year. So can't wait. And again, just this weekend. So
yeah. And once again, folks, the best way to be notified right away when we go live, make sure you're subscribed, whether it's on YouTube, on Facebook, Twix, Instagram, however it is that you follow the show, however you consume the show, make sure you're liking, subscribing, all that good stuff, because you'll get notified. If you're following on with us, you're going to get notified when we go live. So if you don't want to miss a thing, make sure you click that bell or smash the like button or any of that jazz. Make sure that you're on board with us because it's officially football season, folks, and we want you along for the ride.
Exactly. I said there's a little bit of news and notes from the Alouettes that came out this week. I think one of the biggest things that was talked about and that we found out about and that we reported on is that this Friday, Cliff, this Friday. I know it's supposed to be Sunday, but we're finally going to be able to, the players are going to be receiving their championship rings, and B, us as supporters and fans across the CFL across the country will finally be able to see hopefully some very, very nice glam shots of what these things are going to look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's exciting, and for the players, it's like Christmas all over again. Like, no matter how exciting the feeling it was to hoist that Grey Cup championship trophy over your head, which is an amazing feeling all by itself, you're going to get that feeling all over again when you go to this event and there's a box sitting at your table and you open that box and boom, there it is, a big honking piece of bling with your name on it, your team on it, and a reminder that, oh yeah, you won the Grey Cup last year. And my God, it's always so much fun to watch these, because when they post the videos on social and they even put it on their own Instagrams and everything like that, like they're like kids, man. Like kids at Christmas time, right? Like just they open up their presents and oh my God, it's just and so much fun to see it. And yeah, I'm excited to see how this Grey Cup ring is going to look, because let's face it, the Alouettes, their last two Grey Cup rings were just practically ostentatious. I mean, there's just the wow factor was huge. And we've talked about this over the past couple of episodes, just how championship rings in general have just gotten like redonkulous as far as how they look and the things that, all the bells and whistles that seem to come with them now. Like, it's not just a matter of a ring with some diamonds on it. No. It's got to be iced out. It's got to have all sorts of crazy stuff. It's got to, so much is going on with these things. And do I think the Alouettes are going to have something like that? Not to the degree where you're like, taking it apart. There's a
I don't know. I'm actually thinking the Owls may become the first CFL team to have that 2-tier ring.
Maybe, but I mean, I'm generally curious to see how it looks. I think it's going to be beautiful no matter what. I think it's going to be amazing. It'll be amazing to see without question. And I sincerely hope that the trend continues of having replica rings made for the fans so that they can also experience that as well. Because, I mean, let's face it, it would be crazy to try and give fans their own Grey Cup rings. But, I mean, if you can give them the replicas, I mean, those are pretty cool too. And I've even seen like other fans throughout the Canadian Football League, try to get their hands on the ring. Even if their team didn't win the Grey Cup, they still want those just as collector items. Like there's a huge market for this. So I sincerely hope that the Alouettes at some point, whether they do it for their season ticket holders like they do out in Saskatchewan, or just for like, the first 10,000 fans to walk into the home opener, for example, some way, shape or form, they've got to be able to have replica rings for the fans so that they can also feel like they're a part of this as well. So I'm going to trust the process, as I keep mentioning we have to do sometimes. But all this to say that, yes, this coming Friday, I think everybody's going to be checking their socials and waiting to see the refresh. And
refresh F5.
Yeah, we got to see what that ring looks like. And the players, right? They're going to be there and they're going to be doing this and showing it off like that, and like all over their socials. I mean, it's going to be fun. And listen, if it's your team, you can't help but be happy. You can't help but be happy seeing these guys get the reward, the true reward for all their hard work, their sacrifice. Not just being able to call themselves champions, but to truly have a piece of that is absolutely phenomenal. So this coming Friday, it's going to be a good little party in and of itself online, I think.
I'm actually very honestly considering his history too, and I think I am so happy for him. I'm really curious to see what the reaction is going to be from Joey Alfieri. I really am, because I know he's had such a long history with the team and Alouettes, and I'm curious to see what his reaction is too. So at least got to give him a shout out. So
yes, we do.
Speaking of stadium, I went by the stadium earlier this week because I know we were expecting the scoreboard to be updated to be the new scoreboard supposed to be video board supposed to be put up sometime before the before the home opener. It hasn't. They're doing something currently right now at Percival Molson, so it can't be done as of now. One thing I did notice, by the way, Cliff, remember I think we talked about this a couple episodes ago, how they're going to lay out the stadium out when it comes to these Grey Cup banners, considering we now have 8 of them. Well, the way they were last year, so far the apparatuses used to hang those up have not been replaced. They've been taken down, but they haven't been replaced yet. So question is that going to be the same location where they're going to be located, or are they going to be placed somewhere else? I guess we'll have to find out over the next couple of weeks.
And what better way to find out than to make sure you have your tickets for the home opener?
Which single game tickets just went on sale this week. So make sure you head over to goowlsgo.com and order them from over there. So the other thing too that and I'm just curious to know what your thought was, is that a season ticket holder reached out to me to let me know that his seats are actually being relocated for this season. And the reason being that he was given is that it looks like that they're going to be taking over this section, the section in D and D1 over on the north side is going to be somehow converted, 3 rows, 16 seats each, going to be converted for an extra broadcast camera. I'm curious to know what when it comes to how TSN is going to use this camera, and B, aesthetically, how's it going to look at Percival Molson? Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, over at the Molson Center, Bell Center,
it's going way back.
Old habits like Skydome. That the guys are, I think they still are, the main guys that shoot the hockey games for the Canadiens are really low down. They're actually, it's like they're sitting in a race car seat, and they're able to move the cameras left and right as easy as possible, because there's 2 right next to each other. I'm curious to know what it's going to be like, because you and I both know the area quite well when it comes to Percival Molson, especially that section 2, and it's in the lower section of D. I'm just curious to know what it's going to look like from people in the stadium, how it's going to be set up, how it's going to be used. Obviously, I'm hoping it's some sort of obviously another camera angle and stuff like that. But I guess we're going to have to see once it actually comes to fruition. I guess we'll find out either. No, won't be it might be the preseason game. I don't know. We've already asked us. That game's on TV, so maybe it will be for the preseason game. But I guess we'll have to find out.
Yes, we will. Again, until we see it in action. It's all we can do is speculate. So, I mean,
yeah, exactly. So, my friend, as we've stated before at the beginning of the show and now, and talk about it, we got camp coming up. We are on the cusp of starting. Well, technically it started on the cusp of, as you said, that road to Grey Cup 111 in Vancouver. What are you looking for, dude? I mean, as I said, we're going to need our score sheets when we get to camp, see about the new players, watch the guys that we've been seeing every year, see how the rookies are able to gel and to mesh, and see if we can find a couple of those diamonds in the rough that the team, I'm sure, is looking for.
Without question. I'm definitely excited. There's some new folks to meet, which I'm going to be very excited to finally put names to faces. That's always great. Obviously, a lot of guys that we've gotten to know over the past year as well. We're going to be excited to see them again. It's going to be like a nice little family reunion, if you will, and that's what's great about camp too, is you get that opportunity. You get the opportunity to meet old friends and make new friends as well. And that's part of the fun. That's, to me, is what makes camp so exciting, is you get a chance to see that. You get a chance now to see how this team is going to operate, how they're planning to put everything together. And no, not everybody who's going to camp, you see on day one of camp, is going to be there at the end, or even could end up being a member of this organization or not. Only time's going to tell when it comes to that. But to me, this is part of the fun of training camp, is going and meeting these guys either for the first time or again for the first time, if you get what I'm saying. That's what I'm looking forward to more than anything else. And just the mere thought that, yes, CFL football is back and ready to go. I mean, that should get everybody's heart pumping. That should get everybody hyped and falling all over themselves to get to St. Jerome or wherever it is your training camp is located, to go and check this out and go and be a part of it. And the team wants that as well. I mean, you talk to these players and they're excited. They're hyped. They hear all these great things about Montreal and they want to know what it's all about. They want to meet the fans and they want to get excited. And this is where it starts. It gets started this coming Sunday at training camp, whether it's in St. Jerome or anywhere else in the Canadian Football League. This is where the excitement starts. This is where, as football fans, this is where you want to be, as far as I'm concerned. Like, even if you don't know, like, some of these players from the hole in the wall, it doesn't matter. You're going to see, like, this is where the next superstar is going to emerge. Let's face it, a lot of the players that were on this team that helped win this Grey Cup last year, we didn't know very much about a lot of them when we went to training camp. We got the score sheet, like you said, and like, oh, number 85, Tyler Snead. Oh, okay, let's see what he can do. Oh, and then you see what Tyler Snead was able to do, and you look what the season that Tyler Snead had, absolutely phenomenal. And that's where it starts. Yeah, you may not know this guy right away, but if the talent is there, and invariably for a lot of these guys, it is. All they need is that one opportunity to show what they can do. And holy cow, when you see it in action, when you see what they're able to do, that's where you start getting excited. That's where you start seeing what football is all about. That's where you start seeing where this team is going and what direction you think this is going to go. And it bleeds into the regular season and so on. And yes, it all culminates this November for the Grey Cup in Vancouver. Will the Alouettes be there? Well, that'd be awesome. That would be awesome if they could go and have the opportunity to repeat as Grey Cup champions. But no matter what, for all 9 teams, it starts this Sunday. So if you have the opportunity, if you have the means to be able to do so, folks, go do it. Go check it out. Even if you got to, take a bit of a drive out to get there, or however it is that you get to training camp. Again, they're all free. They're all free sessions, folks. So you just show up and show the love. And believe me when I say that these players get excited. They get very excited when they see the stands filled with fans watching them do their thing. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're a football fan, especially a fan of the Canadian Football League, you owe it to yourself to get out to at least one training. At least get out to the first one if you're able to. Or get the schedule and find out when they're practicing. Make sure you get to at least one session if you can, folks. Get to as many as you can. Simply put, that's where the love starts. That's where the excitement starts in this league. So I've said what I had to say about it. Tim and I are going to be there. So, hey, and that's the other thing too. If for whatever reason you really want to come and meet us, we'll be in St. Jerome. Come say hi. We'd love to meet you all too.
Exactly. And it's funny. It goes back to what we were talking about before, Cliff. It's a brand, not just for the Alouettes. It's a brand new chapter. No matter where you finished last year, it is it's brand new for everybody. And every team is going to go through the changes. I mean, look at the changes that the Alouettes have. We're starting a brand new chapter with a running back this year. Brand new chapter. So it's going to be fun, dude. I just can't wait to see how these guys just, show up. I just can't wait. And I'm looking forward to being in St. Jerome as many times as possible. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of stories that are going to be told during this training camp season. It was like that last year. It was like that the year before, and so on. And that's how it is. there's lots of stories within the story, if you will. And it all starts at training camp. And from there, from that first session, you get to you start to see what the vision is for the team and how it goes from there. And truthfully, that's part of what makes football so fantastic. It's not just about the regular season games and all that stuff. It's the building blocks that are put together at training camp. So again, folks, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you owe it to yourself to get out to a training camp session, as many as you can, and see how this hopefully championship football team gets put together.
Exactly. Stay tuned to all of our socials. As I said, with training camp starting this weekend, we do plan to at least do a one flight deck live from St. Jerome. And I said that will be an ongoing thing through training camp. Also, we will be back next Wednesday for another show. Stay tuned for who we're going to have here on the show next. I'm sure we don't know yet. It will be a surprise to us too, but again, we hope you do join us for the show next week. Reminder: you can catch us this show in audio and in video format, obviously over on YouTube page and on all of the podcast aggregates. So, Cliff, dude, can't wait to see you. Obviously in St. Jerome, it's time to start the 2024 road to the Grey Cup. And I'll see you there. So for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.